Hmm.
Woohoo!
When you said that we maintain these filters because we want people to like us, I guess I hadn't answered the question for myself, but hearing that, it sounds really true to me. Like, I think we really all want to be liked. We just want people to approve of us.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's why we're constantly playing this little game of, how's this person feel about me? How should I react in order to make them like me?
Yeah.
I think we do that a lot.
Definitely.
If all of us are creating these filters all the time and think that there are these parts of us that are just that no one would accept or like, aren't we all the same? Like, it doesn't. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, on some level, like, is it possible that we're all wrong? Like, if we just all admitted what we are to ourselves?
I think that our insecurities are collective, and they are, honestly, sometimes a little bit inaccurate. Like, I think there's a lot of things that we, as a society, could just decide to accept. Like, we couldn't easily decide to accept. I don't think we're going to decide to accept it anytime soon. But we could decide to accept some things, and then they would just become a normal part of society, and that would be, like, one less insecurity that people have. But at the same time, sometimes parts of yourself you don't show to people just because people don't like them. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this right, but some parts of yourself, some parts of everyone, just make other people uncomfortable or annoyed, even if they have those same parts. Like, for example, when we're, like, I don't know if this is a stupid example, but, like, when we're in the car and there's music playing, sometimes they try to, like, sing along to it, and I'm like, stop it. I don't like that. Like, it's really, because it's grating to, like, my ears. Like, it's really hard to hear. It's hard to concentrate on anything else. And it's, like, genuinely a really, like, uncomfortable experience for me overall. And, and I asked them to stop, and so they stop. And, like, sometimes I feel like it would also be fun to sing along, but I don't, because I know, like, maybe this would be fun for me. But whenever I hear other people singing along to a song, it's just, like, a really annoying and uncomfortable experience for me overall. So even though, like, maybe everyone has this urge, or a lot of people have the urge, shielding it from other people is the right decision, because even if society decides that it's not an embarrassing thing to want, it can still be uncomfortable and annoying for other people to perceive.
How do you think it would feel if your brain just stopped spending all of this energy processing all this stuff, and you just stopped doing that?
I think that I would feel a lot more free, but I think that I would also feel really scared.
Kind of cool. Kind of the way you just phrased that. Like, I would be more free, but it would be scary. Generally, if you presented me an opportunity where the result would be I would be more free, but it would be scary for me to do it, I'd be like, I'm all in. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Right? It's weird though, but I'm not saying
it's not that easy, because like, the fear is there for a reason. Because if you just decide to, like, let go of all filters and just do literally whatever you want in front of everyone, then most people would not like you.
I guess that's the question at hand, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about another kind of lying. Lying to yourself. What does it mean to lie to yourself?
Sort of like unconsciously, or even sometimes consciously, knowing something. Like, the evidence builds up, or, like, you've come to a conclusion, but then just, like, disregarding that conclusion, or just, like, sort of constantly ignoring it, or not thinking about it at all. Like, you know something in the back of your mind, or you thought you knew something, but you know what, that doesn't make sense. Like, actually, I don't think so. Maybe it's something else. It has to be something else, because this can't possibly be true about yourself or other people or the world or something else. You come to this conclusion in your mind, but you don't admit to it and allow it to become a part of like your truth in the way that you really perceive the world.
Because you don't want it to be true.
Because you don't want it to be true.
And so, and that's denial.
That's denial. Yeah.
Do you think that we lie to ourselves more or to others?
Ourselves.
Probably depends on the person a little bit.
Probably depends on the person a little bit.
But I think in general,
ourselves.
Right? I think that we love deceiving ourselves.
Definitely.
I think in general it's pretty hard to lie to me, but I am a great liar to myself.
Yeah.
Like, I can get away with anything.
Yeah, because the same things that apply to normal lying apply to lying to yourself. Like, it's easier, it helps you out in situations, and it's way less scary.
I think, again, once again, you're understanding of there being fear and, just not wanting whatever you know to be true about yourself or the world or reality or whatever else. And so we unconsciously and consciously just push that stuff away.
Yeah.
I can tell you, from my experience, denial is possibly the most dangerous thing in the world. Look at when public leaders are in denial about who they are. I mean, consider Vladimir Putin. Do you think he's in denial about what's happening in Ukraine right now? That on some level, that this is not going the way that he wanted it to? Do you think he pushes that away?
Probably.
Do you think that enables him or helps him to continue fighting that war?
Yes.
So there's real consequences to denial.
Yeah.
It's not just personal. It doesn't just affect you.
Yeah.
It really affects the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout my professional career, I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I can tell you the number one reason that their businesses fail is because they're in denial.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's always the case that the reason why their business isn't going to work is just, it's right there. Like, it's so obvious, and they know it. But they will, it's like the smartest people in the world that I've ever met, some of these entrepreneurs, and it's so obvious. Like, if it was someone else's company, they'd be like, that'll never work. But if it's theirs, and they put so much time, and it's so important for it to succeed, it's like they can't see it. If you're denying your own failures and why something's failing, you're going to fail, for sure. How do you think it feels when you're in denial about something?
It sort of feels just like desperate, almost. Like something you're trying so hard to find something else that makes sense, like to find a conclusion that matches up with all the evidence you've uncovered, to find new evidence that leads to something else. You're trying so hard to find something that proves that this thing isn't true, but you just can't find it.
And I don't think it's that active, right? Like, I don't think that that's how it feels. I mean, there's definitely the sense of desperation, but I don't think that it's active. I don't think that you're like, I'm trying to find this way to get away from this truth. Like, that would spoil the whole thing, right? That's not denying yourself. Let me introduce a term to you that I think that captures it to some degree, and that's anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, so what's anxiety?
It's like just this awareness that something's not right, that something's going to go wrong, and you don't know how to stop it.
Well, a term that a famous phenomenologist used, Heidegger, is fleeing. Like, there's this sense of you're like you're, and it goes to your desperation thing, right? Like, you're fleeing from yourself. And there's no way you can get away from it, right? Because the thing you're fleeing from is real. It's true. Yeah. It's reality.
It's like the fight or flight response when you feel scared, and you just keep running and running, because if you fight it, then that means admitting that it exists.
Well, and so in those moments where you've been in denial about something, and then you finally overcome it, and you're like, you know what? This is the truth. This is real, and I can't pretend it's not anymore. Are those good moments?
No. Sometimes they almost feel worse than the fear, than the anxiety, than the running, the desperation. Because you finally realized and admitted to yourself that there's not a solution to this problem. Sometimes it turns out better in the long run, depending on what it is. And sometimes it's just a bad thing that you've been trying to hide from and you finally realize it's true. But either way, it feels like finally confronting the monster that you've been running from and not knowing what to do next.
Do you think that those moments, though, where we are able to overcome our fears and our denial and our self-deception, those present opportunities for healing, for rethinking a situation, for maybe finding what the real answer is?
Yeah, definitely.
How can you tell if you're in denial about something?
It's hard because the entire act of denial is meant to keep you from reaching the truth. If you're feeling anxious about something, if you're feeling scared of something, if you're feeling like one thing can't possibly be true because you're just so scared of what it is, and the reason it can't be true is because you just can't comprehend that it could be, you might just be lying.
I think that what happens is this. Our brains are great at calculating consequences. And so if you're in denial about something, there's a deep-seated part of your brain that knows the truth. And there's this other part of your brain that is actively suppressing that.
Yeah.
And telling stories to yourself and creating filters and whatever else to avoid seeing that truth. But I don't think you can really fully deceive yourself. I think we're too good at calculating.
Yeah.
And so it creates a conflict inside yourself.
Conflicting beliefs.
And feeling conflicted. You feel that. And once again, I can go back to entrepreneurs. Like, when you're an entrepreneur and you keep running up against this problem and your company's not working and you're in denial about, why it's not working. And then you finally, whether it's something you do or just you run out of money or whatever else, reality catches up with you. And it exposes that thing that you've been running from. It's, on some level it's a terrible feeling, but on some level it's just like this wash of relief, because even though it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
Do you think that denial is ever beneficial or good?
Not really. It can feel like it's good in the moment, or it can feel good that it was good in the moment after you realized everything. But when you have a problem with yourself, when you have a problem with the truth, running from it doesn't make the truth go away. And if it's a real problem that you might even be able to solve, you're not going to be able to solve it if you don't even admit to yourself what the problem is. So while denial can feel helpful in the short run, in the long run, it's just going to damage you more. It's because eventually you are going to face the truth, and you're probably not going to like it, but at least then there's a possibility you could find a way to fight it instead of just running away.
Well, and one thing that I would say from a philosophical perspective is I don't think people in general are philosophically misaligned with the truth because they're too dumb to understand what the truth is. I think it's because they're in denial. I think there's something about there are things about the reality of this universe that we human beings don't like.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Definitely.
What kind of things?
Death.
Well, yeah, death is really is a big one in something we've talked about before. I don't think human beings like the idea that we're going to die.
No.
I think that the numbers, the statistics, if you just let them speak for themselves, pretty much say that we're going to die.
Yeah.
There have been about 100 billion people who've lived on the planet Earth, Homo sapiens. And I think most of them are gone. Do you think that the stories we tell ourselves about continuing once what we are is destroyed, like that there's some sort of secret essence of us, a soul or whatever, that continues past us, is a form of denial?
I guess it can be. But, like, some people, like, come to terms with their death and just leave that anyway.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, you can, but I mean, as a society, right? And maybe not as much now as in the past, but I think that, can societies be in denial? Can they create a whole world that's not real because it seems better than what is real? Well, so lying, complicated, right?
Yes.
I think in our analysis, it's something that you think is common.
Yes.
I think it's something that that's complicated, in that it's something that we can do to others, we can do it to ourselves, we can do it to varying degrees. So I brought up the scenario where maybe we all just admit to each other these things that we hide from each other.
Yeah.
And it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal, or maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that a part of that is because those things that we don't want to, or that we don't share or admit to others, are things that we don't want to believe are true about ourselves?
Yeah. Definitely. Like, because we don't want to think that we're flawed people. We don't want to think that we're bad people. We want to think that we have, like, these few small, minor little faults that can be squished down easily. But overall, we're pretty much perfect people. But that's blatantly untrue. Like, everyone has these huge, major issues and are really imperfect. But we don't want to admit that to ourselves. And we especially don't want to admit that to other people. Because then we would have to entirely rework our own perceptions of ourselves. And that we might be wrong some of the time, which is always a hard conclusion to come to.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I really don't think that if we all fessed up to who we are to other people, that they would care, really. I don't think we would necessarily care that much about other people, but we wouldn't like what it implies about us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that we all like to suppress things that we are as human beings, because we don't want to believe those things about ourselves. So let's bring this back to philosophy. This whole thing about our brains and denial and not accepting the truth and shaping reality for our own purposes, this radically complicates the philosophical endeavor.
Definitely.
Right? Like, we've got to get through that personally in order to become great philosophers. Something that I think is part of the philosophical mindset is trying to get into how you're deceiving yourself and what you're not accepting about reality and yourself because you don't want it, more than trying to figure it out because you don't understand it.
Yeah. We hope that you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please consider checking out the next one in the series.
Or some of our other series on philosophy and life.
We upload videos every Friday, so don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. See you next week.